Pumpy92 here, and I got a question. Or I started pondering a question on my own. I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, and then a few weeks later I started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I never finished that game, because I never got hooked on it. It never caught me that much, because of many things. Among those are the combat. And after playing Ghost of Tsushima, that game's combat is... it's not perfect, but it's damn near perfect, almost. Because the controls and the character and the movements all feel natural. They look natural. And it feels great to control Jin when he dodges and stabs and all that. But going into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, doing that combat? My God, no! I mean, what were they thinking? The people who designed the combat in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, have they ever seen someone fight? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, give me a second here. I'm gonna go and get something. This will have to do as my stand-in sword for what I want to show you. Now, this is just a replica, and a nice Chinese replica, nice to hang on the wall. But I think I'm gonna pull this out. It's not sharp, but pointy maybe. But I'm just gonna use this. For example, and I need a knife. Good enough? Now, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you use two weapons when you block. You use your main hand weapon and the Spear of Leonidas. And when you block, you do this. And when you block, if you time it right, your character, Cassandra or Alexios, will do this. This is the block. Bam! Now, that's fine. That movement is fine. I mean, they had to do some kind of animation for that, and this, I think, is fine. Now, blocking with a small dagger or spearhead and a sword, or whatever main hand weapon you have, is not the easiest. Blocking like this could work. Now, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you could actually hold down the block button and block with your shield at all times, or with your weapons. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you can't hold down the block buttons and block all the time, because you need to press two buttons at the same time, and that's annoying. That's one of the biggest issues with the game to start with. Before we get into the real mess. Two buttons to block. This movement requires two buttons, for some reason. And if you don't press them at exactly the right time, it's not that hard, but if you accidentally press one before the other one, you do something else that you don't want to do. So that's a fail, and you don't block, and you get hit and possibly die if you're unlucky. And if you do succeed, and you block, if you press too early and the enemy takes too long to attack, you will again miss, because you block like this for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then your character stops blocking and you get hit. That's the second thing that really annoys me. Why can't you stand like this and block? I mean, if I was in combat with a knife or a sword, a knife and a sword, I start blocking like this, I can actually stand like this for, well, a very long time. Because no matter where the strike comes from, I can always move my position of where I'm blocking. Down, up, left, right, whatever. But in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you stand like this, and then you stand like this, and then you get hit. Now, And why is that? Why is it that you get a warning that you're about to get hit from an enemy, and then you start blocking, and then you stop blocking because it takes too long? That's because of the very unrealistic fighting that's in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, an enemy in Ghost of Tsushima strikes. You can see when they're about to strike. That's one thing. I mean, you need to have some kind of indication that someone is about to attack. But when they strike, if you don't notice the small things they do before they strike, like lifting up their weapons, or do this. Shielded guys usually have a shield like this, and they stand like this, and when they're about to strike, they move their sword back a little bit to do this. And if you don't notice those things, you could potentially get hit. But in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they do strikes like this. Oh. And oh. And oh. I mean, they're so telegraphed that it looks like an 80s movie or 70s movie. Or any kind of old movie where the choreographing is really, really bad. I mean, the strikes are so telegraphed that a child would be like, oh, he's hitting from there. I should move my sword there. I mean, they're so slow. The strikes are so slow that, I mean, you actually can block too early because your character just blocks for a few seconds. What kind of mechanic is that? In Ghost of Tsushima, you can actually block all the time. But in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, every time you block successfully, you do this kind of movement, bang, and then you can attack them. You make the enemy off. You cut the balance. You upset the balance of the enemy. They're like, oh no, oh, and then they're open for attack. But in Ghost of Tsushima, if you do too early, you will just block them and you will get nowhere. If you do it at the right time, you will maybe deflect them in a direction, and then you can attack them from behind or front, depending on the attack and from where you blocked. If you do it perfectly, you will get a slow motion where you can just slice down, and if it's a weak enemy, you can one-hit them. Because, I mean, a slice like that's gonna kill you. But in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it's nothing like that. They do this with their swords, and then they do this. They wind up like a wind-up doll. It's like someone put a key in their back, started winding them, and then when they start winding, they do this. And then when they release the key, yeah, that happens. And sometimes the winding up is fast, and sometimes it's slow, and it's impossible to know when, because the warning is not visible through just the enemy doing this. It's visible through a kind of a blinking from the enemy. The weapon, it blinks right at their hands or something. A silver circle or something pops up as an indicator, oh, you're getting hit soon. And then you press down, and when that appears, if you're too early, when that appears, you will stop blocking and you will get hit. Seriously, who the hell made that up? Whew, okay. But in Ghost of Tsushima, if you're getting attacked, the only time you're getting an indicator is when it's an unstoppable attack, or one of those blue indicators that it's a blockable attack, but if you block too early, you will get hit, or nothing will happen, or something like that. It's a blue indicator mostly when there's enemies with barded or hilberts, where they do this, and if you block too early, well, or you miss, mostly they're a bit faster than normal attacks. And then of course you have the unblockable attacks, which we will get to right now, because the unblockable attacks in Ghost of Tsushima, they're believable. They're very believable. I mean, if a guy about 2 meters tall, muscles like my legs on his arms, I mean, did this with a big club, I would back the hell off. I would dodge and roll away as fast as I could. Or if the same guy with a big iron shield, like as big as he is almost, came running at me to do this, I would back off. Like, way off. But in Odyssey, this is an unblockable attack. I've seen enemies in Odyssey doing this, like, they're my size in arms, or smaller even, and they do this on Cassandra, and it's an unblockable attack. I mean, you're using your feet, for crying out loud. I could just, a foot, slice, and then it's off. Well, maybe not off, but it would definitely hurt, because they have no armor on their feet most of the time. Now, if a big guy did that, I could believe it, but not unblockable. I mean, how hard is it to just do this with your weapons on a leg or something? But that's not the worst part. The worst part is how they can do this, and if you dodge by just tapping instead of rolling, they're just gonna teleport to you and still kick you. So, in Odyssey, you have 2 weapons in your hands. And someone comes at you with their foot. Or just, Nope. It's unstoppable. You can't block the foot. You can't just swipe it away or do anything. It's unblockable and you can't stop it. Even if you kick them yourself or something like that. Even if you use your Spartan kick, they're not gonna care or anything. That's so stupid. In Ghost of Tsushima, the combat is believable. In Odyssey, it is not. But there are some unstoppable attacks in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that are believable. For example, the shielded guys who suddenly scream out and then they start bashing their shield and then they start running at you. I mean, if someone was running at me with a shield and wanted to, well, crush me with it, I would probably back away or dodge away. Problem is, I could just show you. You see that? He starts here. When he charges me, he's here. Almost. I mean, where's the logic? How can you charge someone with the same amount of force if you start running in this direction and then pan around and then still hit someone with the same amount of force? That would be like me running in that direction at my full speed, turning around in 180 and instantly have the same amount of speed that I had when I turned. Which is impossible, because I can't run and then turn 180 and then start, let's say I'm running at 10 miles an hour. That's not really 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. Let's say I'm running at 15 miles an hour and then I do this, and at that, as I set this foot down, I'm still at 15 miles an hour. I mean, when you turn 180 degrees around, you're gonna slow down. But not in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Not in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. You're just gonna be the same amount of force. And not only the two-legged enemies have this, four-legged enemies have this problem as well, especially the boars. The wild boars. Man, I hate those boars. It's no matter how much they're charging, or if they miss you, or if you dodge them too early, they're just gonna turn and they're gonna hit you anyway. And no matter if they're standing right next to you, if they punch you, or I mean, you know what I mean, knock you. What's the word I'm looking for? Poking me with their big ass noses. You're gonna step back like what, 2-3 meters from them? How much force is there in this from a wild boar in reality? I mean, sure, I would guess it would hurt. I mean, those tusks are not to play with, but ouch! Jesus Christ. They're so powerful in nothing. They're doing nothing, but they're still powerful. Let's see, there's another unstoppable attack that's really stupid. Oh yeah. There's some kind of also very thin enemies, but they're quite agile, which is okay. But they just jump up in the air and they start spinning with their weapons like this. I get up to you. And that's unstoppable, seriously. If an enemy is off the ground, they have no balance at all, you could just push them. If you strike them in the air, wow, they're going down. I mean, oh, the combat in Odyssey. I mean, just, oh no, it's coming at me. Ah, crank, stopped. If someone did that with a two-handed axe, like this, I wouldn't stop that with a sword and a spearhead if I even was immortal, because that would hurt like hell. But, oh god, I haven't played Valhalla yet. I have been focusing on other things, like food. So, I hope that the combat is better there. I've heard some negative things about the combat in there, but it seems to be at least more realistic than Odyssey. Now, normally a realistic combat is, well, I don't care about if the combat is realistic or not, but at least in all the Assassin's Creed franchise, the combat has been somewhat realistic. I mean, standing just like this and just waiting for people to attack one at a time is not realistic, but at least it was realistic, the moves you did and the moves your enemies did, and what was unblockable and what was not unblockable. But in Odyssey, it's just all in, whatever. It's too much mythology written into it. It's too many pieces of Eden or crazy things that's happening in Odyssey. Now, Immortals Phoenix Rising, I'm looking forward to that game. We'll see if I'll be playing that on release or not, but that game does not have a realistic combat, that shows. But I can forgive it because, well, it's a mythology game. It's based on mythology. It has all the gods and monsters, and it's not rooted in history or reality like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is. So that's why Assassin's Creed Odyssey cannot be forgiven before its combat, and also why Ghost of Tsushima is also so much better. Now, the only thing that Ghost of Tsushima has as its most unbelievable thing is the standoffs, I would say, because I mean, you're holding your sword like this, so the blade, the sharp edge of the sword is up there, and you still manage to turn your sword like this and kill someone. Well, if you're fast enough, that is. Then the rest is, the first slice on the first enemy might be the most unrealistic one, but as for the other ones, I mean, I can't do this fast, but I mean, you're holding your sword like that, and then you do that, and then maybe like that, and then like that, and then is it like that again, or is it like that again? I can't remember. I mean, you can do this 5 times if you have the right equipment. But yeah, that was me sweeping into about the combat in Ghost of Tsushima and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and why Ghost of Tsushima's combat is the best, and why Assassin's Creed Odyssey's combat is, I think it's the worst combat not the worst combat I've ever had, but it's not too far from it, sadly. Now, I've been Sweeping92. Have a great life, and hope to see you in future videos. Bye bye.